5, 4. People of the world, hello and welcome to Marketing as a Foreign Language, episode 192. I want to say, have you ever drunk from a fire hose? I personally have not, but our guest today describes his experience in the Navy as a submariner. Thank you very much. There's a good reason why we say submariner. As going through nuke school, as drinking from a fire hose, which is to say that if you're in high school and you find yourself, I don't know, maybe not getting the best grades ever, it may not be an intellectual thing. It may not be an intelligence thing. I find many times that it is the drive. There's a soul. There's what's happening in your home, in your family, with your friends. All of these factors are so unbelievably underrepresented when it comes to people's success, at least in my experience. We tend to think that IQ has something to do with your genetics and less so to do with just where you happen to be in life. So I've known Mr. Davenport for, I'm going to guess at least 6 months. Could be a little bit off on that number. He's a member of my BNI chapter, and I consider him a friend. He's a father. He is still doing reserves in the Navy. He's an incredible human being. We're going to learn a lot from him today. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show, Mr. Jason Davenport.
Thanks, Kellen. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
You know, I always have to say that your backdrop, it inspires fear. It's intimidating. You've got all the, you know what? I took a play from your book. See?
Yeah, I saw your wall up there.
I had to do it. I was like,
service, you get all this stuff when you transition between your position. So you put it up on your wall and it becomes, when you get out or as you move, and it becomes what you call your I love me wall. With all your accolades. So this is my I love me wall.
Okay, well, good for you.
My military history.
I love me. So right now you work for a company called Schooley Mitchell that essentially helps companies save money by finding areas where they overpay for, say, like credit card processing or like telecom, that sort of thing. But this wasn't always the case. You didn't always work for Schooley Mitchell. You didn't come out of the womb talking about Schooley Mitchell. And so we will definitely talk about that. But take us back, Mr. Davenport. Where were you born?
So I'm from Chicago, Illinois. I like to say the greatest city in the world, at least in my heart.
Okay.
I love it. I was born there, raised there up until I left to join the Navy. Now my family's still there. So I have a special place in my heart for Chicago. All their sports teams, still follow all of them. And they're there.
All right. So Chicago, I went to Chicago once. I have a long lost sister who I didn't know about for many years.
Okay.
And her name's Rebecca, Dr. Rebecca Hoffner-Pillerman. And she lives in Chicago. And I'm not lying when I say I hate Chicago traffic. I hate it with a passion, Jason Davenport. The toll roads, not my favorite thing.
I'm not sure you were visiting, but it's a major city problem. It's not worse than LA or anywhere else. But I can feel you. Being from Chicago, I never drove. I didn't learn to drive till I left because we have an amazing public transportation system. You can really literally in the city get anywhere you want. So it's not something I ever really experienced. I literally did not know how to drive until I left for the Navy, and I was 19 when I left. So it was not something that I ever dealt with, really.
This may make sense. It makes sense to me. I mean, oh, dude. One time I was literally at a toll road in Chicago and I had to put in change. There was no other way to pay. And I looked at the camera, and I was like, I just did this. I just put my hands up. There was nobody there, no one I could talk to. And I just drove through, and I ended up paying Enterprise some fee later for whatever. But
I do know they have those roads.
Brutal.
When I've come to visit, I'm like, that has to be a pain in the butt. But that's only when you're driving out of the city, like into the suburbs. Like in the city, I don't know that they have those, but yeah, that's fair. That's a fair complaint. That is fair.
You know what I mean? I'm sure the people of Chicago are like, they're like, you stupid tourist. They're like, what's wrong with you? And I am a stupid tourist. So you're in Chicago. Are both parents in the household?
I was raised by my mom mostly. My dad was around, but I live with my mom and my two brothers mostly. I have a twin brother and a younger brother who's 7 years younger. So,
who's the more attractive, you or your twin?
Of course, me, but we're not identical. But I don't want to put that out there. That's not fair to him. But no, I have a biased opinion, obviously.
So you've got another brother that's 7 years younger. So let's say, you're 5 years old, you're in Chicago. What kind of kid are you?
I was 5 years old. That's tough. I was probably a good kid, like through, I would say up until high school. I was pretty, good kid, did well in school, smart, adventurous. Don't remember a lot from my 5-year-old, that's for sure. But
going way back, yeah.
Yeah, that is way back. But no, I was pretty good then. Like those years growing up, I did well. Everybody always mentioned, how smart and outgoing I was, and I was always, member of the group and leading groups. Even then, like if there was a group of kids, like I would be the forefront. It was always a big part of who I was.
So how do you lead a group of children? You're just the one that everyone looks up to decide what you do next?
Yeah, I mean, there is somebody that's there that's the forefront. There's a group of kids. There's one kid that's like, hey, let's go do this, and all the kids follow. That's who I am, the one that brings it all together. That's who I kind of always have been. A little bit older, but when I left for the Navy, the group that I was in was from all over, because my brother didn't go to the same high school. We knew some friends. I had, my friends, and we were a group of people that were all together that all hung out from the different environments. Like it wasn't me just hanging out with people from my high school. Like it was a group from all over. When I left to go join the Navy, everybody was still home in Chicago. The group kind of broke up and I got letters, while I was in. It was like, you were the glue that held it together. It was kind of that thing. And that was always been kind of who I've been.
So what is it about you? And actually, let me take that question back. So as someone that moved into this whole Schooley Mitchell vibe after an extensive career in the military, which you continue to do through the reserves, do you feel like you have a genetic predisposition to what one would refer to as entrepreneurship? Because entrepreneurship, very similar.
I don't know if you would call it genetic or just something innate or how I was raised or what I've learned growing up, but there was something there that just, I don't know if it can be taught. Maybe you can learn it, but there was something that was always there that was always a part, of who I was, that I didn't know I had, growing up. That wasn't there. It was something that I discovered when you start learning more about yourself as you get older and, hopefully wiser.
Oh yeah.
But and you start looking back and you look and you say, oh, okay, I can see that part of myself even back then. When you start looking at situations from your past and you say, oh, I was doing that, or I had that as part of who I was then. And, some people may lose it and it never gets developed. But luckily, I joined the Navy and I did find that. And, from my experiences, first enlisting and then becoming an officer in the Navy and having to lead, I can go and look back and say, oh, that wasn't just something, that they found. It was something that I did have. So luckily I found a path to use that.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I've been a follower in my life, obviously. I mean, everyone has. But I really take leadership seriously and I really enjoy it. I feel much more comfortable in leadership positions. Do you struggle with authority?
No. Being a leader, you have to be a follower as well. You have to be able to understand all of that. Like a good leader who's not a good follower who struggles with authority is not going to be a good leader. Like, you have to be able to understand that. And being a good leader, like, even if you're in charge of a group of people, being a good leader doesn't necessarily mean that, hey, you go do this, you go do this. Even your subordinates, or the people that are under you, you know, if you're not willing to listen, to take them into consideration at all, and that's part of following as well, right? You're not going to know everything as a leader or a person that's in charge, right? So if you can't take the tools that you have, which, you know, are the people that you have that work for you as well, and be able to bring that and know what their strengths are and utilize that, then you're not going to be a good leader. You're going to fail, because you're going to try and take everything on yourself. And there's going to be somebody that's going to be better at it, that may be, again, in a position that's wrong, or maybe a few rungs under you. And, you know, you're not going to listen to that person because you're not in that position. And the same thing, if you have a problem with authority, you know, everybody has somebody above them in some type of way. Even as an entrepreneur, right? You're the people you're doing business for, right? I don't know if the customer's always right, but you have to be able to listen to them and understand their point of view to be able to do business with them, right? If you have that problem with authority, you're just going to blow them off and maybe ruin the deal, ruin a relationship, whatever the case may be. So all of that comes into play with being a good leader.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I often say that I've got over 40 bosses.
Yes. Yeah.
Right.
That is definitely it, right? You're working for them. That's definitely the case. Even if you're an entrepreneur working for yourself, you're working, you know, you sign a client, you're definitely working for them and trying to do what's best for them as your client.
Yeah. So it's almost as if you're in an employee situation and you're really interested in being an entrepreneur, and you've got this hang up about having, or you know, just maybe a history of not working well with bosses. And I'm not saying terrible bosses, right? I'm not saying, you know, suffer under the iron fist of some horrific
I've seen that as well. Everybody has. Yeah.
Tyrant. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying, you know, regular boss person. Then you know, it's maybe there's some deep dive spiritually, emotionally, psychologically to consider, because if you really want a successful business, you're just ratcheting up the number of bosses you have. You know, it's like,
very much is true.
You want 20 of those ladies and dudes telling you what to do, you know, paying your paycheck, you know, getting that income from all these different sources. Yeah, so that can be rough. And then obviously leadership by example, being patient. It's one of the reasons I drink tea instead of coffee. And then people, you know, who drink coffee might hear that and go, I love my coffee. Don't you dare. Don't you possibly dare. Are you a coffee drinker?
I have my one cup, and it's a big cup, but I have my one cup in the morning. Again, as you mentioned, I'm a father, and I have 3 kids under
you got a new
3. So yeah, and a very young 3-month-old. So
how dare I judge?
Have to wake up in the morning.
Got to. Are you a wake up, do exercise kind of guy?
No, I need to be. I need to get back in shape. As much as you talk about the military and they're you know, fairly in shape, and I was when I was in, but that has gone to the wayside. You know, especially now with the kids, it's hard to find those hours a day and to get out there. We have a nice gym set up in my house too. It's just finding the time to get in there with someone watching the kids.
Oh yeah. You can do baby squats. You can do the father throw and squat.
Father that's my exercise now.
Squat. Father throw. And arm and switch and arm.
I do get a lot of arm workout because my 3-year-old was 30 something pounds. So lifting him up, 2 years, about almost 30. So yeah, getting a lot of that, but
I shouldn't complain. Yeah, I shouldn't complain about my kids jumping on my back and doing all this wrestling stuff, because they're at 6 and 7, and they're starting to get big.
Yeah,
and so it's starting to hurt, you know, when they jump. I'm like, God, you know, and I shouldn't complain, because that day is going to go away. Like those days,
you won't be able to carry them or pick them up.
Days are numbered, man. Like no 20-year-old has been like, Dad, carry me up the stairs. Like, it's just like, it's gonna end.
And it goes so quickly. I can't believe my oldest is about to be 4, and I'm like, how did that happen?
Yeah, my daughter will say some things to me, and I'm just like, whoa, so articulate, so poignant. My son manipulated me the other day. I was at my girlfriend's house, and he's like, "Dada, I really want a muffin." And he thought we didn't bring muffins, so he's like, "Gotta go home. Don't have muffins. Need the muffin." And I'm like, "Buddy, I brought muffins." He's like, "Oh, you can tell he was frustrated." I'm like, "Why are you frustrated that I brought the thing that you wanted?" And he runs back in, like, he leaves, comes back, and he's like, "I want a smoothie popsicle." I'm like, "I gotta go home, smoothie popsicle." I'm like, "You're a stone cold killer, just trying to manipulate me." It worked.
Yeah.
We did go home, for the record.
Once they start being able to develop plans in their mind,
Dude,
it's over.
the whole my girlfriend's like, "Oh, he's so smart." Like, he is so smart. He's so funny. And like, dude, I have never cried as hard as I have cried about my kids, like things related to my children. I'm talking bawling. I love these kids in that cliche way that everyone already knows what I'm gonna say. You know what I mean?
It completely changes everything. Like everything that I feel I do now is through a lens of what can I do to be the best father for them and set them up for their future. So like even, running my business, it's like this is for them so that I could grow something and better take care of them and make sure they have a better life, and lifestyle growing up than I had. So I'm able to provide them anything that they want, and it's easier for them. So someday in the future, they're going to be 18, hopefully looking to go to college and everything. And it's not even going to be a question because I'm going to be prepared for that already. Or, they're going to want to do sports and sports camps. And I'm going to be able to say, they're going to say, "Hey, I want to go to the sports camp." And say, "Okay, let's make that happen." Everything that's the thought now. That's the reason for it. The reason the dad try.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and motivating too. So let me ask you this. So you'd mentioned that your father was there, but not there. What does that mean?
Well, my mom and dad were separated, so like I was at home with my mom, and saw my father, but obviously he wasn't in the home 24/7. So, and he has his own business, so I got to see that, but like I said, it wasn't around all the time.
Mm-hmm. So it wasn't like a 50-50 split.
No, not 50-50 split. There was some times where it would be every weekend, sometimes it wasn't. And then as I got older, I got to make that choice, and it was a little bit less because of me. The relationship wasn't as good there at the time as it was with my mom. So, she was the one that was there, not in as good a situation and doing it every day for the three of us. So, yeah.
So growing up in that sort of household, I can see multiple, in chess they're called lines, right? So if I do this,
Yes.
do that, this line, you follow. Okay, that line's bad for white. This line's good for black, whatever.
Yeah.
And there are multiple lines, but the two most opposing or obvious would be one in which you repeated that cycle, right? One in which you're like, "I'm divorced," and I see the kids on the way, like very similar blueprints of the way you were raised. And then the other would be best dad ever in the world, super dad, number one dad, that kind of vibe. So do you feel like I shouldn't say do you feel like, from my perspective, you obviously have worked towards this particular outcome.
Mm-hmm.
Do you take strength from your childhood experiences and wanting to do something differently than the way you were raised?
Definitely. Like, I definitely wanted, to have kids someday, and I definitely wanted to be that role model, that person for my kids, and have a strong relationship with them the whole way through. So that was there, and I'm glad I'm in that situation now. It took a little bit while, like I'm a little bit older, and started having the kids a little bit later, but I think that's a good way to do it too, because now I'm in like I said, a good place, for myself to be able to do that, make sure they're in a good place, so I'm able to provide for them as best I can. But yeah, I definitely wanted to, have that strong father-son and now father-daughter relationship and be that role model for them. And I definitely took that to heart, deciding to have children and not having children, in the past, even, when I wasn't ready for that, which coming from where I did, a lot of people have done. And I look back and I'm like, they all have kids that are, going to college or doing that kind of stuff. And it's like, wow, that's kind of crazy to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, my mom got pregnant in high school. That's Rebecca, right? So she gave Rebecca up for adoption through Catholic Charities. That was her decision. The path she went down. So yeah, very common. High school pregnancies, early college, 19, 20, 21, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So there you are, young Jason in Chicago, at your father's. I don't want to say sporadically, but less than your mother's. Your mom embodies a lot of positive characteristics, I imagine. What were some of the takeaways from your experience growing up with her? What were her big things?
Yeah, so when I talk about being in a good place and being able to provide, for my kids and do anything for them, I don't want to make that sound like I didn't have, when I was growing up, because I really did. Like my mom, despite our situation and not coming from maybe some of the best areas in Chicago, like I never went without. And that was through her and her hard work and, doing what she needed to do and maybe sacrificing some of the things that she wanted to do at the time. Cause it wasn't high school, but she was, younger when she had us. I want to say 20, in that time frame. And so that obviously changes everything. Right. So, but she did it. And, I look back and at where I am now, graduate of the Naval Academy, working on my second master's degree and everything. And that would not have happened if I did not have her there as a role model and providing for me and keeping me away from some of the other elements that could have derailed anything at any time, growing up. You hear the negative stereotypes about Chicago today all the time. And, I mean, obviously it's a major city, so there's problems, and we grew up in the city, and, there was not some of the best neighborhoods, and that is obviously there. And I could have gotten swept up in gangs. And I know many people that, did get tied up into that. And, looking back at people growing up, and some of the list of people that I know, and you're like, oh, so-and-so did make it, or so-and-so maybe went to prison, or so-and-so did make it, but just not in the greatest situation as I am. And it's like, I know I'm blessed because my mom was there and kept me away from that. And I'm here where I'm at because of that.
Right. So all credit to her.
Yes.
That being said, can you be selfish and look at you and the choices you made and give yourself a pat on the back too and go, hey man, I could have done some stuff. There were opportunities to do some stuff that I respectfully declined or chose to do something else?
Oh, I definitely do. I mean, I know I could have made any choice I wanted to. There's obviously free will and all of that, but I also take the look at it, and it wasn't just me as well. I mean, I have two brothers, and none of us got into that stuff too either. So none of us made those decisions. So, obviously we made the decisions that we made, but we made those decisions because of the example and the leadership and the person, that was there and raising us. So.
Right. So she is the common denominator.
True.
Of this particular question. Shout out to Leah Morrison, fellow BNI member. She writes, good morning. Great talk today, dads. All the dads, so much dadding.
Hey, Leah, how's it going?
How's it going, Leah? Hashtag dadditude. Okay. So elementary school into junior high. So having not the experience you've had of growing up in Chicago, how much like drug and gang exposure did you have? And do you have any stories related to that you'd be willing to share?
Honestly, not a lot. And I say that saying, what I just said, but I steered clear of all of that. I knew stuff was going on, and I knew people that, were in gangs. I know people that I hung out with that, were killed or, died younger for gang violence, whether involved. And one in particular, I know wasn't a great friend, but was in our group, was killed. And I know some people that ended up in drugs or whatever. But the core group that I hung out with, that I considered my, good friends, none of them were in that stuff. I tried to avoid really close relationships with anybody that was, in those type of relationships or situations, excuse me. Because, one, I couldn't bring them home, and my house was like the place we could hang out. Like my mom was always open on my friends being there. We could play Nintendo or, hang out at my house. Because some of their homes may not have been the best environment and things like that. So, ours was the place. And, I wasn't going to bring somebody like that into my house. So I avoided that kind of thing. So I really don't, unfortunately, again.
Nah, that's not unfortunate. No, it's great. I
mean, unfortunately, but you know what I mean? Like, as far as having a story, yeah.
No, there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, look, it's easy to look back on it and go, I just made a series of right decisions, but I don't know. In the moment, it just seems like you had a really strong core. My family is very similar. It tended to gravitate towards my house. My house was kind of the place everyone went. It's funny you mentioned Nintendo because, yeah, are you kidding me? I still play all those games.
My brothers give me a hard time because I was the one really in the game. So like when the Super Nintendo came out, they were like, you were there for hours and would not let me get it. I would hand my younger brother the controller unplugged and be like, here you go, you're playing.
Yeah, man. There's a whole community of people that still play those games. Retro gamers on Twitch. There's a ton of people. There's speed runners that run all those games.
I've seen all that. I joked with my mom and I'm like, you should have let me play the games a little bit more because I've seen these things where people winning $1 million prizes and stuff at these esports.
Mm-hmm. I'm saying retro. It's called retro and it's the greatest thing. There are emulators out there that have every Nintendo, Super Nintendo, Genesis game on them that are just magic little boxes of fun.
Yeah. Well, I got the NES Classic and the SNES Classic and those ones, and was able to put some of the games on there. Oh, I shouldn't probably say it, but
I was just saying, they exist. The emulators exist. I am aware of their existence. Yeah. All right, so we are on 2 minutes left for the show. I want to make sure folks have a chance to reach out to you for your business and what you do now. So tell the fine folks about Schooley Mitchell.
Yeah, so Schooley Mitchell is a cost consultant business. We help businesses manage their vendors in a few different areas, such as telecom, credit card processing, newly added utilities. And we do that by managing their vendors and looking at their bills, making sure that they're not being overbilled for the services they have. And then we make sure that they're not paying for services that they're not using. And then after we do all of that, we go out into the marketplace and we look at what the marketplace can offer and try to find you savings. The best part about what we do is that we can do that look and there's no risk to you as a business owner. If we find savings, that's when we get paid. If there's no savings to be found, then you get that look and that review at no cost to you. So we have managed to help save businesses over up to 20% or more. On average, it's about 20%. So yeah, we can help your bottom line by getting those costs down for the things that you have to have as a business owner.
So how do they reach out to you?
Best way to reach out to me is by email is jason.davenport@schooleymitchell.com. And then my phone number is 702-468-2369.
Yep, that's Jason Davenport, Davenport, for those of you that are driving and listening to the podcast. Marketing is a foreign language every single 10:30 a.m. Pacific Standard Time live. You can join us after the fact on YouTube or iTunes and Spotify. Special shout out to Jason Davenport, the first BNI member to swing by the show and be a guest. We appreciate it. Next episode, we will pick up around high school. We'll get that Submariner story that we were teasing in the thumbnail. All right, final thoughts, Jason?
No, just thank you for having me. I appreciate it. It was a lot of fun, and I like having those conversations, especially getting to talk about my mom because she's a big hero and part of my life. So appreciate it.
No doubt. All right. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next time.